Joining us now is United States Representative Greg Stubbe, who's now filed articles of impeachment against the traitor, Joe Biden. Congressman Stubbe, thank you for taking the time. Tell us about your articles of impeachment.
Yeah, Charlie, thanks so much for having me. Well, with all the different investigations that the House had done, I broke it up into 4 different articles, and I encourage your listeners to actually read what I filed because I laid out all the evidence that supports all of these different articles. The first was related to bribery and extortion charges, everything from the payments from Burisma to the millions of dollars. Now we know for a fact, based on the financial subpoenas that the Oversight Committee has done, that there's over $20 million that has been paid to the Biden family. And then we have obstruction of justice charges, articles related to the IRS whistleblowers. And there's evidence now that Hunter and Joe basically shared bank accounts. And so Comer's now going to do subpoenas on Hunter's his actual bank accounts. So we'll know more about that. But a lot of these payments that the big guy sent to his son for $5,000 for prostitution, for drugs, for all this different things, if you or I were joining our money to get involved in a prostitution ring or drug trafficking or purchasing cocaine, then we could be charged as well. So I threw that in there as well. There's so much evidence now of the crimes that have been committed. And as you know, the president can't be criminally charged while he's in office. This is the only tool that the House has. I think it's long past time based on all of the evidence that we now have. It's not Russian disinformation. It's interesting. The Democrats started the laptops Russian disinformation. And now if you watch the weekend shows, guys like Raskin are saying, oh, well, there's no evidence that Joe actually took money. Well, I can tell you if my wife took $20 million for me to take official votes on Ukraine or something like that, that's still bribery, corruption, and extortion.
Yep, that's exactly right. So you're right. Joe Biden will not be indicted as president. But what you're referencing is actually a longstanding Department of Justice policy. It's not a law. They broke their policy, by the way, when they used to have a policy, an internal DOJ standard that you do not indict people running for the presidency. So they could, they just won't. But you are correct. Joe Biden will not be indicted by the federal government anytime soon. So let me ask you, this is a really comprehensive document you've put together. People can see it on your official House Gov website, stubbe.house.gov. What is the kind of cue us in, temperature check with your Republican colleagues? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? Are we going to get a vote on this? And most importantly, do you think that this could eventually be approved by the House of Representatives?
Well, let me talk process first, just so people understand how it works. So the Judiciary Committee under the U.S. Constitution has the jurisdiction for impeachment proceedings. So now at this point, my bill will be referred by the Speaker to the Judiciary Committee. It'll be in the hands of Chairman Jim Jordan to make that decision. I'm assuming that the Speaker is obviously going to be involved in that decision as well. And then the Judiciary Committee would complete and go through an actual impeachment inquiry, where we would bring in witnesses based on all of the evidence that we have and go through the inquiry and then have a vote before it would go to the House floor. Now, politically, I've seen comments that Speaker McCarthy have made publicly that he's much more open to an inquiry. In the beginning of this Congress, obviously, it wasn't something that anybody was focused on. They wanted to focus on the investigations and see what evidence comes out of the investigations. And I support that. That's a reasonable conclusion instead of rushing in and making mockery of the impeachment process like the Democrats did the 2 times that they impeached President Trump. So I understand that. Let's do it the right way. Let's go through the process. But we now have the evidence. He's committed crimes. We have evidence of those crimes. And it's time for an impeachment inquiry to start. It seems as though the Speaker's much more open to it based on the comments that he's made. And now that I've filed these articles, other members are starting to get asked, hey, where are you on impeaching the president? And the articles that I've seen that have been all supportive of starting the inquiry. But it takes 218 votes on the floor. But I think of the Judiciary Committee, which they will do a good job if the inquiry does begin, laying the case before the American people. I can't see how a Republican could sit back and look at the evidence of crimes that have been committed and not vote to impeach President Biden.
So in private, you don't have to say any names, what is the prevailing objection you receive from your colleagues that do not want to impeach Joe Biden?
Conservatives all support it. You have your moderates in the House those that are much more moderate and in moderate districts, maybe districts that Joe Biden won, they say things like I saw the comments that Mitch McConnell made after I filed them, where it's, the country doesn't want to go. Let's not divide the country. Well, the country's already divided. They impeached Trump over a phone call. We have actual facts and evidence of crimes that were committed while he was vice president, actions he took while he was president, acting on all the payments that his family members made. It would be dereliction of duty on Congress and the House not to do something with this type of evidence of crimes being committed. I think we can get those more moderate members there when they look at the facts, but obviously you look at the facts and then there's a political determination that these members have to make based off their districts. But I can't see how you can't vote for an impeachment based on the facts that we have before us. Just taking what happened to President Trump out of this isn't a tit for tat. This is facts that we have, evidence that we've collected, corroborating financial evidence of witness testimony. Devin Archer's testimony last week corroborated a lot of these financial documents that we've received and the information that we have, and it's long past time to move forward.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I don't see the counter argument. I mean, some people say, well, it might hurt us in the next election. I'll be honest, Congressman, I'm so sick of hearing that. I mean, how many times do we have to restrain our courage just because it might hurt us in the next election? I think that our voters are not going to show up for us if we do not act with conviction. Your reaction?
I agree 100%. I mean, just look what happened when Paul Ryan was Speaker. I wasn't elected to Congress yet. I came in 2018. And the American people put Republicans in charge because they said they were going to get rid of Obamacare. They were going to fix immigration and the border and all these issues. And they didn't do it because it was a strong conservative issue and they didn't want to put their moderate members on the board. And they lost the House because of it. We lost the House because we didn't go up there and say we were going to do what we were going to do. And the American people have put Republicans in charge, albeit by a small margin, but we have the gavels right now. We have the power in the House right now. There's overwhelming evidence of the corruption of this White House, the complete weaponization of the DOJ and the FBI, and it's time to act. And you are exactly right. If we don't act, and we turn a blind eye to all of this because, like what McConnell said, oh, well, we don't want to divide the country and we don't want to, cause problems and that kind of thing, or whatever his quote was, that he didn't think impeachment was good for the country right now, we're going to lose the majority in 2024. And what we have to do right now is hold the majority in the House, take the majority in the Senate, and win the White House in 24, or I feel very afraid of the future of our country with another 4 years of Biden.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, there's this question of why doesn't our base show up in kind of one-off elections? The question of Ohio and all this when Trump is not on the ballot. And I think this, that our most loyal voters have lost total faith in D.C. Republicans, you being excluded, obviously, with your boldness introducing this article. Congressman, 40 seconds, we'll pick this up after the break. Do your colleagues realize how hated they are by base Republicans currently?
I think conservatives obviously realize where the base are. They know where the base is. It's interesting if you go into a moderate Republican district, how they feel that they have to capitulate their principles to the Democrats or, all these different policies, progressive policies, and that's not what they got elected to do. Yeah,
it's really maddening to me. We don't have an opposition party, but you are one of the few that is standing. And in the next segment, I want to have you talk about your endorsement of President Trump instead of Ron DeSantis, which I think you've been really incredibly bold on this. And I just want to make sure you get the credit and the support. Articles of impeachment are now filed against Joe Biden, thanks to Congressman Stubbe. So stay right there, Congressman Stubbe. Florida's 17th congressional district. And based on the website, looks like you represent Sarasota Longboat Key, which is a slice of heaven. Maybe I'm wrong. I think that's right, though. We'll talk about that after the break. What do we have? ReliefFactor.com, 100% drug-free. Relief Factor, knee pain, back pain, joint pain, elbow pain. Relief Factor is a wonderful product. If you are in pain, you can get out of pain. You can get to sleep at Relief Factor Sleep. So check it out right now, ReliefFactor.com. That is ReliefFactor.com. Relief Factor is taking his now. We are not yet sure, according to Big Fannie Willis, whether or not Relief Factor is against the law as a conspiracy against inflammation. Still waiting to hear. ReliefFactor.com could be the best solution for you. So knee pain, back pain, joint pain, elbow pain. Relief Factor is a terrific product and supplement. They're wonderful supporters of this program. They do a great job. Their formula works for people. So check it out, ReliefFactor.com. That is ReliefFactor.com. Email us freedom@charliekirk.com and subscribe to our podcast. We continue with Congressman Greg Stubbe. And just very interesting as a side note, multiple polls now show Governor DeSantis in third place in New Hampshire and other states. In some ways that saddens me. I'll tell you why after the break. Subscribe to our podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Greg Stubbe is with us. Ron DeSantis has fallen in third place. Vivek Ramaswamy is ahead of him in some polls, and Chris Christie is ahead of him in New Hampshire. I think Ron DeSantis is America's greatest governor, and he's been running a disappointing presidential campaign. I don't like when people don't perform their best. I don't like when good governors start to really let's just say, I'm going to be nice, just not excellent on the national stage. Congressman Stubbe, you endorsed Donald Trump instead of Governor DeSantis, and you were with President Trump in Iowa this last weekend. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely amazing. You know, you read polls, and the polls in Iowa, I think, have Trump ahead by 20 points. Polls nationwide in Florida have him ahead by 30 points. Polls in my district have him ahead by more than 20. But it's a different reading of poll, and it's very different being there with that crowd. And we were at a pork chop station, and I was standing next to a guy flipping pork chops with the president next to me. And I asked him, hey, you know, I know Governor DeSantis was here earlier today. Was there a similar crowd? And he's like, the guy at the stand was like, there's no comparison. There was 118,000 people at the fair that day. When we drove in the motorcade, there was 12 blocks of people trying to get in. And everywhere the president went, he was completely surrounded by thousands upon thousands of people. Very different reception from what Governor DeSantis got. While Governor DeSantis was at that same pork chop tent that I was at, people started chanting, "We want Trump, we want Trump." So I'm a Floridian, so getting out to another state and seeing that is very interesting to me. I would expect that here in my district and in Florida, but to see that in Iowa on full display is just shows the complete level of excitement and support that President Trump has. Yeah,
so in your district in Florida, would you say that President Trump has more support than Governor DeSantis currently?
Yeah, 100%. We did a poll a couple months ago, and I think he was ahead 25 points, 20 points. So I represent all of Sarasota County, Charlotte County, and the northern part of Lee County. It's not close at all, which is interesting being from Florida, because you would think that, look, people support the things that Governor DeSantis has done as governor. But when you put DeSantis up against Trump, there's just no comparison.
Yeah, and so this primary is unfortunately going to get nastier before it actually comes to some form of completion. You know Governor DeSantis pretty well, or you're obviously in the same state as him. What advice would you have? Do you want to see him keep running? Some people are saying he should just go become a terrific governor of Florida and not continue to muddy the waters and spend $1 billion unnecessarily.
You know, at this point, you would, putting my political hat on, you would look at this. Since he got in the race, you would think his numbers would be increasing, and they're dramatically decreasing. I think to save political capital, it would be wise to get out and endorse and support President Trump, just given the numbers, because the longer your campaign languishes, and I think the DeSantis campaign is now thinking, well, these debates that are coming up, that could be the turning point. They were hoping that Iowa would be the turning point, and it turned out to be very bad for their campaign. So you get through the debates, and that's not a turning point, and the numbers keep going down. At some point, you need to save face. He hasn't even been a year in reelect. He just got elected last year to governor for a 4-year term. I would have hoped that he would have concentrated on the great state of Florida and the things that they were doing here, support President Trump, and then he'd have a couple of years after President Trump, and he could run, because Trump only has one more year. But I'm not giving him political advice. Somebody else is. But at this point, with the way that the numbers are going for him. I would think that the best thing politically to do to save some face and some political capital and some appreciation, so that we don't have this division within the Republican Party. It's clear if the election were held today, Donald Trump would win overwhelmingly. I don't see that changing. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see that changing, and Iowa's less than 5 months away.
Greg Steube, excellent, and we support your effort to impeach Joe Biden 100%. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.